Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. In this video, we're going to go back to taking a look at the new dynasties of India civilizations, specifically their elephant archers. And going from a unique unit to now a regional one, it can be a little tricky to keep track of the new civ bonuses and gauge their respective impacts. The goal here is that you leave with a better understanding of when the elephant archer is going to be an effective unit to include in your army when playing each of the three civilizations that have them, and how their different bonuses and techs play into that. We'll start off by going through the civilizations individually and what they have going for them, followed up with a bit more practical comparisons against some common units. I want to start though by briefly laying out what I think the role of the elephant archer is intended to be. Notice it replaces the cavalry archer, as no civilization has access to both of those units, and it's affected by cavalry archer upgrades, including specialized ones like Parthian tactics, while elephant archers even take cavalry archer bonus damage. In fact, they take up the same slot in the user interface, so it seems clear civilizations will only ever get one or the other. Where the cavalry archer gives a lot of mobility over the regular crossbow line as its main selling feature though, the elephant archer gives tankiness in two special cases. Whether it's the conventional crossbow line or even archer unique units, the elephant archer gives you similar firepower but will trade cost effectively against pure archer armies. The second advantage is they survive mangonel shots a lot better. As fun as it is to try to dodge mangonels with crossbows or cavalry archers, you're really playing with fire, and while elephant archer numbers are more costly to build up, you won't lose them to one lucky mangonel. Keeping in mind the importance of durability to both of these roles, we'll start off our list with the Bengalis. Their unique flavor is that they take less bonus damage and are more resistant to conversion. Probably the most significant unit impacted by that is, of course, the spear line. The halberdier, for example, has 10 attack when fully upgraded, but an additional 60 bonus damage against elephants, compared to 32 against most cavalry and 26 against camels. In this case, you're getting functionally almost 25% less damage overall, though for the elite skirmisher, because of some negative armor complications behind the scenes, it only ends up being about half that amount, and skirmishers remain a very effective counter. Still, the fact this applies to their counter unit specifically, and the Bengalis lack heresy, we're talking about them holding up better against exactly the units that you're probably most worried about. The other specialty they initially appear to have is greater damage output, with a unique tech in Castle Age giving 20% faster attack. I should point out though, this is a very misleading tech. At the start of Castle Age, elephant archers fire every 2 seconds, or 30 arrows per minute. With this technology, they fire 20% more, or 36 arrows. The problem is that Bengalis are missing Thumbring, which also increases elephant archer fire rate by nearly the same amount. Thumbring also happens to be cheaper and affects many different units, unlike this unique tech, which only affects 2. In addition, Thumbring also improves accuracy, while the Bengalis' unique tech doesn't. The irony is that while it initially looks like you can expect additional damage output from the unique tech, if anything, you're paying a little more to end up with either the same damage or a little less than just getting Thumbring to begin with. The one exception is they have Parthian tactics, which gives +2 attack against spearmen, so in post-Imperial they do a little better than they otherwise would. They're in fact the only elephant archer civ that have Parthian tactics, meaning they end with the highest pierce armor out of all of the elephant archer civilizations, and the highest total combined armor. That may not be an incredibly useful metric in isolation, but it does start to tell a story. Altogether, we have the picture of a unit that while initially appears to be focused on offense if you read their civ card, upon closer inspection between the reduced bonus damage and greater armor, instead we end with the impression that they're meant to be an especially good damage sponge / sort of an anti-halberdier specialist. The next civilization we'll look at is the Dravidians. Their big bonus that jumps out is their elephant archers attack 25% faster. I realize it feels like we've seen this already, but this time it's not a trick. They have Thumbring, and after that, they just attack faster than any other civilization by 25%. In addition to that, they also have unique tech, letting their elephants regenerate HP. But make no mistake, this is not intended to be a tanky version of the unit. Looking at their tech tree, Dravidians are missing Parthian tactics, bloodlines, and even husbandry. So compared to Bengalis, we're talking about less armor, HP, and lacking a bit of speed, making it harder to get away from any of their counters. The Dravidians really have the glass cannon of the elephant archer world. For raw damage per second, this is the best elephant, and is going to give the range damage output that you need to support the Dravidians' infantry, but it comes at the cost of being generally less resilient. I've seen the interesting comment made that Dravidians are basically hard countered by onagers, as their stable is downright awful, but that's where I think the elephant archer can actually help, by being better against those than either infantry or their other archery range options. It may not be tanky compared to other elephant archers, but compared to the Dravidians' late game alternatives, it does stand out. The final elephant archer civilization is the Gurjaras. For them, one thing that jumps out right away is that their mounted units do 50% more bonus damage. That said, even though they are mounted, elephant archers actually have no bonus damage whatsoever, so this only really applies to stable units. More relevant for our purposes here are their unique techs. The first reduces their food cost from 90 to 68, though their 70 gold cost is unchanged. Keep in mind, it takes 27 elephants just to pay back for the total cost of this tech, so it's arguably not that impactful in especially early Castle Age. The other unique tech gives elephant archers +4 melee armor. Compared to the 0 they start with, that sounds like quite a bit, but against the halberdier's 60 bonus damage, it really doesn't sound like that much, and the importance of this is really going to depend on the matchup. At the same time, they're also missing the final armor upgrade, so in context, while they end with the most melee armor, they're dead last in pierce armor. Their final bonus is their team's elephants are all trained 25% faster. Interestingly, notice that all of these bonuses and techs also affect camels, and it seems more like elephant archers may not have been the primary focus. Typically, Gurjaras so far are played with some sort of Shravamsha rider or camel combo to counter archers and knights respectively. Unlike Dravidians, Gurjaras also already have a unique ranged support unit in the Chakram Thrower, which isn't too bad against mass archers. Adding in the fact Gurjaras also have good cavalry to deal with siege, it's harder to find a role that can only be filled by the elephant archer. We'll still try them out head to head against the others in a variety of situations though in a moment, and especially see if their cheaper costs can make them stand out. Just a quick reminder before that, the Hindustanis don't have elephant archers. They have cavalry archers instead, as again it seems civilizations can only have one or the other. So that's their individual flavors, but now let's get back to the big question. Who does elephant archers stand out in different situations when we put everything together, and is there a clear best? We'll start things off in Castle Age. Very simply, head-to-head with Castle Age upgrades, the Dravidians are the clear winner. Thumb Ring plus 25% faster attack more than makes up for lacking bloodlines in this case. Aside from that, Bengalis and Gurjaras are functionally about the same, with Gurjaras winning thanks to a little more HP. Remember, thanks to a unique tech, Gurjaras are potentially cheaper though, and if we account for that discount, they actually win even against the Dravidians. Likewise, against pikemen, there isn't a noticeable difference in the end results. Bengalis survive a bit longer, and Dravidians deal damage faster, but none are really great against pikemen without a blocking unit in front. On the other hand, against knights, Dravidians actually stand out quite a bit as being the best, even beating a knight one-on-one, for albeit a much larger cost per unit. I think this test reveals why we don't see elephant archers in 1v1s very often, at least against cavalry civs. As you can see here, even generic knights with equal numbers are fighting very cost effectively while being much easier to mass. That said, what about against crossbows? In this case, of course, elephants would win one-on-one, but even with equal resources, they still do very well. In this matchup, it's actually Bengali who end up doing the worst when we account for cost, though they still end with 2/3 of their HP left, so it's hardly a poor result. In these tests, I'm letting Gurjara use an extra unit to reflect their discount, so keep in mind Dravidians are still the best on a per unit basis. Now, this isn't to say that elephant archers are good against anything ranged, as non-elite skirmishers have +10 and elite skirmishers have +13 against elephant archers, meaning regardless of what civilization we're talking about, the skirmishers are going to dominate. And this is probably reason number 2 that they aren't used all that often in 1v1 games. But now let's switch to the Imperial Age, where we have more unique techs factoring in, which should help differentiate the civilizations. In a very simple head-to-head matchup again, this time it's the Bengalis who stand out, thanks almost entirely to their high pierce armor. Even with the Dravidians' faster attack and healing helping them out over a long period of time, it can't make up the difference. Again, Gurjaras are lagging behind, but even if we account for their cost, the discount isn't enough to save them. While they were the best in this sort of test in Castle Age, even Dravidians end up beating them with half their HP left over. The argument that Gurjara's discount makes them a sneaky value play in Castle Age really doesn't hold up as well in the late game it seems, as the other elephant archers pull ahead with additional techs. It's a similar story against halberdiers, where Bengalis taking less bonus damage is more impactful at close range than even the Dravidians' faster attack, and again Gurjaras come out the worst. Of course, a lot of that is coming down to the fact that the halberdier has so much bonus damage, and if we try again with Saracen heavy camels who have less bonus damage against elephants, we actually hit a sweet spot where reduced bonus, faster attack, and +4 melee armor all basically end up giving you the same result, though none of these cases are particularly compelling considering the camel's much cheaper cost. Taking away bonus damage altogether against the Paladin, it turns out that Gurjaras actually hold up the best when you consider their low cost and similar performance to the others. My takeaway is that their +4 melee armor tech actually starts to do some real work when bonus damage is taken out of the equation and all 3 civs are on similar ground. Of course, their big specialty is against foot archers, where Bengalis steal the show with 82% of their HP left when starting with balanced resources. This is their tankiness from Parthian tactics showing up again, but you can see they really stand out compared to the others. On the other hand, against skirmishers, it's a similar story to Castle Age, where they all do about equally terribly. Again, I want to highlight the Bengalis' bonus damage reduction doesn't do a lot in this case, and if anything, Dravidians' faster attack makes them perform about the same or even slightly better. So just to end on a few final thoughts, digging into things a bit deeper ended up changing my mind on some of my initial assumptions. Despite how it may look, Bengalis are not an offensive powerhouse with their unique tech, and are instead a damage sponge, especially in Imperial Age against archers after they're fully upgraded with Parthian tactics, where I think they stand out ahead of the others. Dravidians instead are the real heavy hitters, and like I said before, I consider them a glass cannon. While they initially stand out in Castle Age, and I'd say they're number 1 at that point, they're a little less dominant in a relative sense by the late game, which in fairness probably says more about the Bengalis' power spike than really anything else. Gurjara elephant archers, on the other hand, I'd say feel a bit more bland. Their specialty is in the late game, holding up against melee units and just being a bit cheaper. But going back to the start of the video and what I see as the role of the elephant archer, it really isn't to excel against melee units per se, except maybe the halberdier, which Gurjara melee armor doesn't really help against anyway. Overall, I'd say they're probably the weakest elephant archers, but they're also the civilization that rely on them the least, considering their variety of options at both the stable and castle to fill similar roles. In all cases though, the unit is certainly a weapon to keep in the back of your mind, especially against archers, though also be aware of its limitations. That's all for this one though. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.